All right. It's a great time. Good day, everyone. And I want to welcome us to Fishleadhub April webinar. We are excited to have us join us from different parts of the world. I want to employ you, if you are joining us and you know some other persons who are supposed to be here and they are yet to be here, kindly do well to share with them or call their attention to the fact that our April webinar is starting already. Yeah, at Fishleadhub, our focus is simple, let me put it like that, but very critical. And what we are doing is to build a pipeline of skilled, informed, and innovative driven young professionals in fisheries, and the broader blue economy. And I must say that the session today is very, very important because it addresses a major gap, the disconnect between skills and the real industry opportunities in blue economy. And our theme for April for this month is bridging skills and employment in the blue economy, preparing young professionals for industry opportunities. In many parts of Africa, young people who are studying aquaculture, fisheries, and other related disciplines, sometimes there are no clear direction, on career pathways. Sometimes there are lack of skills, required skills, to really thrive in the aquaculture, fisheries, and blue economy industry. And this is exactly why we are here today. And also the reason why Fishleadhub as an organization exists. So today is a great opportunity. We are privileged to have with us Celia. Celia Murcia with us is a privilege, and we do not take it for granted. So I want to encourage you all, as you are watching us in different parts of the world, different platforms, to kindly inform your friends, colleagues, and other people you know who should be here with us at this time. And then I also want to employ you to do away with distractions and, ensure you maximize this time, maximize this opportunity to learn and acquire relevant informations that will be, Celia will be dishing out. And I believe it's going to be a great time and impactful time, having Celia with us this time. So it's a great privilege. So it's a pleasure to have her. And Celia, you have the floor. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you so much, Ojo. Thank you so much, Ojo, and the whole team of Fishleadhub. I think you are doing a great job promoting blue economy in African countries. So thank you so much for the invitation. So I hope you can see the screen and you can hear me perfectly. So a bit of an introduction of myself. My name is Celia Murcia. I'm based in Spain. I have a background on marine science, oceanography, and then I study some master in marine renewable energy. I have been for the last 15 years working on blue economy from the different perspectives, with a focus on the European side, but also within the Western Mediterranean side. So currently I'm the coordinator of an initiative that is called WestMED initiative. So since maybe you are also coming from countries like Libya, Mauritania, Algeria, Tunisia, these countries are part of this WestMed initiative to promote a blue economy in the Western Mediterranean. And there is a technical group on aquaculture and fisheries that you may be interested in having more information about this. So this is about me. I'm the founder of Blue Jobs. I don't know if you are familiar with Blue Jobs, but we are a consultancy company working on blue skills, talent, and recruitment. So we started as a job platform to basically support people like you, recent graduates, to find a job in marine science and the sustainable blue economy sectors. We grew very quickly. We have now a community of more than 60,000 people around the world, people like you from the aquaculture and fishery sectors, but also from other blue economy sectors from more than 100 countries. In the last years, we have been promoting more than 3,000 jobs, and so basically we have a very good community of professionals. We cover the different sectors of the blue economy, but I think today we are going to focus on those that are more interested for you, which are marine research, marine biotechnology, and for sure fisheries and aquaculture. So just for you to know a bit more about us, about Blue Jobs, so what we can offer to job seekers like you, we have this Blue Jobs database that you can find, and you can filter jobs by sector, so you can find jobs specifically in aquaculture and fisheries. We provide career guidance, we participate in webinars, we do training, networking opportunities. So we have also our YouTube channel with different webinars that you can have a look. Then we do training, in particular, for example, on how to build a blue CV or how to prepare a proposal for funding. You can also check our blog because we post a really interesting information for job seekers, but also for experienced professionals. So what are we going to do in this session? We are going to provide a contest of the blue economy. I'm sure that you are aware, but we are going to go through the most promising sectors on the blue economy, then to discuss a bit of the career pathways, because I'm sure that you are at that point that you need to decide which career pathway you are going to go. Then we are going to see an analysis of the skills more demanded in the aquaculture and fisheries sector. And then we are going to finalize with a very practical tips on how to prepare a good blue CV, which sometimes it seems easy, but I'm telling you that I receive hundreds of CVs per day. There are a lot of tips to implement. So let's start with the emerging sectors in the blue economy. These have been recognized by the European Commission, but obviously they apply to any other regions in the world. No? One is marine renewable energies. I'm putting here, but because also there is links with the fisheries and aquaculture sector. So a lot of opportunities for upcoming offshore wind developments where there is a need of engagement with fisheries and aquaculture experts to avoid any potential impact on the sector, environmental impact assessment experts. So for you to have in mind that this is a key sector. Then another very important sector is blue tech and marine observation. So for those that you have studied marine science, there is a key priority now on smart sensor monitoring observation to better understand the sea, no, and the impacts, the resilience, the climate change aspect, everything. So this is focusing on digital twin, digital technologies, the artificial intelligence, no? This could be also used for the fisheries and aquaculture sector. Desalination, especially if you come from Mediterranean countries or African countries, you know that this is a problem because there is a need of fresh water and there is a need of modernization of facilities to meet the demand of fresh water. So you have also some future opportunities for jobs here. Then let's move to the coastal ecotourism. So you know that there are a lot of impacts from the traditional coastal tourism model. So there is need for experts to better understand how we can go towards a more sustainable tourism, which is compatible also with the fisheries sector and the aquaculture sector. So this is also important for you to consider. And in line with this, there is maritime spatial planning. So basically, experts that MSP planners, policymakers, mapping, modeling, to basically allow all the activities of the blue economy to happen in the way that there is no overlapping, there is no conflicts between different sea users. So this is something that they require a lot of experts as well. Then let's move to aquaculture. Even if this is a traditional sector, this is not a new sector, but is one of the most dynamic. So right now it needs some improvement or modernization with digital technology, with the use of satellite monitoring to digitalize the aquaculture. For example, the designs of fresh circulation aquaculture systems, to improve the genetics of the different species, to use technology, for example, the operated vehicles underwater. So there are a lot of options here in the aquaculture sector for job opportunities in this direction. So in the direction of innovation, technologies, reducing environmental impact. And then another demanding sector, another emerging sector is marine biotechnology, which is the commercialization of non-traditional products. This is very related to aquaculture and fisheries, no? And there are opportunities in research, marine environment, in the biomass production and processing of all of these products, in the part of technology, policy, so different sectors that work towards marine biotechnology. I'm putting this as an example of marine biotechnology because the potential, the growth is very high. I put only, this is the number for the global market and also for the percentage of growth. So definitely a good sector to follow. The market of blue economy, it has different applications, no? From the genomics, from the pharmaceutical, from new biodiesels, drugs discovery, but also really related to fisheries and aquaculture. Okay, so now we understand which are the most emerging sectors that will have in the short, medium term more job opportunities, but now we are going to look at career opportunities. No? So usually when you finalize your studies, there will be two pathways. There could be more, but usually it's more research or private industry, especially in this biotechnology or aquaculture fisheries sector. So you need to see the pros and cons of each of the sectors. So if you go from the pathway of research, you will have a really contribution to the scientific progress and innovations. You are free to choose in which projects you want to work. At university, you will be able to apply for one project or the other. You will have continuous learning opportunities, no, at your University of Research Center, which is a positive aspect. You will be able to travel and networking in different events, in different conferences. You will probably participate in EU or international projects, so you will be able to meet other experts, other researchers in the sector. The cons, usually research positions are less remunerated, especially for the first years. You will have a lower salary than in the private industry. Work-life imbalances sometimes, the research career is sometimes very hard if you have done a PhD, but also the private industry is the same. So you will be always depending on external funding. So you with your university or your research center or your training center, you will need to look for external funding to continue your investigation, your research. And there are not so many career opportunities compared to the private sector, but obviously this depends on the country of the country. And then we have the private industry, which probably you get a higher salary. Is more focused on problem solving and solution oriented environment. Okay, so you will apply the research and science in a very practical way. So basically you will see the direct contribution of your innovation, of your technologies. No, what's happening is that you will have lack of freedom in choosing the project of your preference, because basically you will be working on the priorities, on the aspects of the company. No, so you cannot choose like in the university. And apart from that, you also will need to carry out tasks that are not only related to fisheries, aquaculture, research. No, you need to also know about funding, administrative, project management, sales, client management. No, so these are important skills that we are going to look in a bit. So once you basically define which career pathway you would like to go, you need to understand what are the skills. No, so we have done a study of analyzing thousands of jobs related to all the blue economy sectors, but also including the fisheries and aquaculture. So we have come up with a list of key skills and competencies that are more demanded right now. And we have classified in green skills, blue skills, the specific skills for the sector, digital skills, and soft skills. I will explain this in a bit. So let's start with the blue core skills. So these are skills that are for this sector, but also for all the blue economy sectors. No, so if you want to work in the sectors, you obviously need the color is the skills that have been more requested in your offers. Okay, so you will need to know obviously about the marine resources management. No, if you want to work in aquaculture or fisheries, you need to understand what are the resources, what are the species, what are the impacts, no, of extracting these resources from the sea. You need to have a knowledge on the marine system, so how in your region the currents from the sea works, how this affects to the fish population, no, in your area. You need to also be aware of the blue innovation, so the technologies of the sector, so what's going on, how the sector is adapting to the new technologies, etc. Then, of course, you need to know about marine legislation and governance. So if you work in aquaculture farm, for example, you need to be aware of the legislation in that country in terms of the health of the fish, in terms of where you can put the fish farm, everything you need to know about. You need to have knowledge on this. So these are key skills. Okay. Then we look at more general sustainable skills. So obviously you need to be aware of the sustainable resources management. We have discussed this on the resilience, climate change, how all of these aspects affect to the fish population. No? Environmental protection, obviously. And then one thing that is very important for, especially for all the blue economy sectors, but especially also for the fisheries and aquaculture, is the stakeholder engagement and participatory process, because you will need to deal with the other fish, with the other users of the sea, for the tourism sector, for marine renewable energy developers. So there will be the same space, maybe implies different activities. So that's why it's important that you understand how to deal with other stakeholders in your area. Okay. Okay, now looking at the specific skills for the fisheries and aquaculture sector. Okay, so you will need to understand about the management systems, the production, obviously, of the fish farm or in the fisheries vessels. No, you need to understand also. You need to have the knowledge of the planning. So how, if you are going to do some campaigns to take data, if you are going to go through different phases of aquaculture. So data collection and analysis, this is another skills that is very important for you to have in this sector. And as I said, a knowledge of the governance of the policy in your area, okay? Not only in your area, but if you work at the European Union, you need to also know the legislation in EU, but also international. So you know that there is the FAO, you need the international frameworks that you need to be aware, okay? Another important skills for you is the seafood, for example, working most on aquaculture, traceability and certification systems. And then we have the more transversal or soft skills that they are not specific for this sector, but it's very important that you have it. As we mentioned, is communication, stakeholder engagement, science communication. So basically you need to be able to communicate what you do, what is important to farm this species and not this one, for example, in a way that policymakers understand, that other stakeholders understand. No? So this is very important, science communication. And then digital blue skills that you need for this sector will be data analysis, as we mentioned, to have decisions based on this data, statistical analysis, and real-time monitoring systems. So these are key skills. So this exercise, this analysis is very important because, for example, if you have finalized your studies or you are looking for a job, you can come here and see the skills that you are missing. No? So, for example, you are not really good or you don't have the knowledge on statistical analysis. So maybe you can do up skill. No, you can do a training on statistical analysis to improve and to be ready for what the market wants. Okay, so now we know about the different pathways, the different skills that they are going to be requested to you in the different jobs. So now let's look at how do you apply for these jobs. Okay, you need to be aware that you have between less than 10 seconds for a recruiter to decide if your CV is worth it to keep reading or not. So in 5 seconds, the recruiter, the organization that are looking for talent will decide in a very first look, will decide if they keep analyzing your CV or not. So it's very important that you keep some rules, that you keep some structure in your CV, so the recruiters will decide to keep reading your CV. You know, more than 50% of the curriculums have like the typical sentences that everyone puts. They have grammatical errors, they have a lot of cliché. So it is worth it to spend some time working on your CV, and you need to adapt it for every job. We are going to see some examples. So basically, what is a blue CV? A blue CV is basically a resume, a CV tailored for the blue economy. So you need to highlight what is your connection with the ocean, with sustainability, with the fishery sector. No, usually in this sector there is a lot of international, doesn't matter if it's European, but international experience, no, in the blue economy, because the sea doesn't have frontiers, barriers, no. So usually we collaborate with other countries and institutions. You will probably have education in marine science or in aquaculture, fisheries, and as I said, soft transversal skills are very important to highlight them. Okay. So first thing, you need to choose the right template for the CV, or you need to have different structure of CV depending on what type of job you are going to apply. Okay, so you need to adapt it if you are going to have an academic job position, or is more, or you are going to apply more for a private sector position, or if it's a job related to offshore work. Okay, so we are going to see the structure a bit. So if you're applying for an academic job, you need to follow this structure. Obviously, you at the beginning you include your personal information, and the first information that you put is your academic profile. Okay, a professional summary based on your academic experience. Then you put your education, your degree, your master's, your training. Then you put a professional experience if you have any teaching or research experience. You need to put the list of the scientific publications that you have contributed, the research projects that you have contributed, if you participation in conferences, seminars, then what else? If you have received any awards, scholarships, recognitions, and then in the end, technical skills and competencies, okay? Like we were discussing, for example, statistical analysis for aquaculture or for fisheries, that could be an example. And then references. So this is the structure. First is the academic experience, teaching experience, research, and then the rest, okay? Then we have, if you want to apply for a private industry job position, the CV change, okay? So you are going to start with a professional profile, with a summary, okay, based on your experience, then your professional experience, key projects that you have been working, and then education. So this is the difference. Education comes later, because for this type of job, what is more important is basically the experience that you have in the sector. You understand how aquaculture farm works, that you understand how being in a fisheries vessel works. So you need to highlight it at the beginning. Then you can add your education, languages, skills, the tools that you know how to use. But then if you have also publications, articles, reports, you can put them here along with certifications and references at the end. Okay. And then there is this third pathway or a structure of CV, that if you are going to work offshore in campaigns offshore, the CV change a bit. So you are going to have the professional profile, the offshore certifications and license that you have. This is very important if you have any any certification that is requested to work offshore. Then the work experience, the safety and compliance certifications that you have, then academic and technical training. So again, you put it at the end, the education, no? The offshore campaigns that you have been working, and some references, okay? So if you, for example, you are willing to work at the private industry, but also at the academic, I would recommend to have two different type of job, CVs, okay? Okay, so once you decide the structure and the template to use, then it's very important to prepare this summary, this profile at the beginning. This is 2-3 lines, so short paragraph of your goals, who you are, If you have any relevant certification or training, you can add it, and it needs to be tailored to each job application. This is very important. You need to adapt it for each job application. Another tip here is demonstrate each skill. So sometimes we put communication. Yeah, I'm really good at leading teams, but you need to demonstrate it. My advice would be to put specific examples to demonstrate the skills. No, for example, if you have for mapping or modeling, if you have a training course on GIS, on geographical systems, you can put them, or you can put if you have a experience of managing research projects, but be clear and put specific examples. Then it's very good to facilitate basically the job for the person that is reading and analyzing your CV. So I will advise to include hyperlinks to the publication and the research project. So basically they can quickly check if your information is right, no? And you can put a link to a publication that you have been working on, and the recruiter can quickly check. Another tip will be to add references. This is not everyone include references, but this is something that sometimes is mandatory, and it will be good to include a couple of references, the role, organization, and contact email, and the relationship that you have with these references. If it was your previous employer, or it was the professor at the university. Obviously, you need to ask for permission to put them in your CV, but I think it's a good exercise. It's more credible. Your CV is more credible in this way. Okay, keep your CV up to date, because this is very important, because 60% of the jobs opportunities are found through networking. They are not posted online. So if you have a friend of a friend that is looking for an expert on fisheries, they will tell you. So they will say, send me your CV right now, because we are going to evaluate it. So you need to be quick on this sense, and you need to have your CV up to date. Okay, this is important. Okay, another important thing is to use keywords. So keywords are specific words that are describing the job ad. It's very important to use it for different reasons. One is because sometimes there are tools from artificial intelligence that will revise all the CVs and decide and do a pre-selection. So it's even a machine pre-selecting candidates rather than a recruiter. So this is important to use the same keywords. So for example, if we are talking about blue economy, you need to use blue economy. Don't use blue growth, because sometimes they meaning the same, but you need to use the same one. Okay, so this is important for that reason. And the second reason is because sometimes recruiters also do some keyword search in your CV. Okay, so it's important that they identify tools. No, if they ask for experience working with MATLAB, no, and they put MATLAB in your CV, they need to quickly check if you have skills on that or not. Okay, another important thing for the CV is include indicators and quantifiable results. So for example, rather than say, I lead a team, you can say, I lead a team of 5 people, achieving 20% of increase in the sales, or getting 3 new clients, or be as specific as possible. Okay, put indicators, to measure the impact of your contribution to that research team or to that company. I understand that at the beginning, when you finalize your studies, is difficult for this, but still you can put some examples of your studies at university, your PhD, or whatever publications you have done there. Okay, so this apply also for recent graduates CVs. Then you know that the artificial intelligence is now everywhere. It is required for most of the jobs. So it will be good that you, at the CV stage, you demonstrate if you have concrete examples of how to use artificial intelligence, how do you use it for work, maybe for analyzing data, maybe for processing image of fees. I don't know, but it is good that you add this under your digital skills. Okay. Then adapt the language. So it's not the same if you are applying for a job in FAO or the European Commission or one of these type of organizations, that if you are applying for an NGO or a private company. Okay, you can use the templates. For example, if you apply for a EU job, probably you need to use the European template for that. But yeah, let's check the language. And the last thing that I wanted to comment is also adapt to the country and cultures. We are here with, I'm sure that there are, the audience come from different countries from Africa. Some of you will be working in Europe. I don't know. So you need to adapt your CV to the country that you're applying and cultures. You cannot, the same CV that is working for you in Nigeria, for example, it wouldn't work in Brussels. Okay? And you need to understand this. So the tone change, the structure change, for example, the use of picture. If you are applying for a job in the UK, do not put a picture, do not have a picture in your CV. This is very important. In the rest of Europe, it depends on the country. Maybe in African countries, it's okay to use a picture in the CV, but you need to find out the rules in the country that you are applying, okay? Sometimes personal details are not recommended, usually are not recommended to include. If you are married, if you are single, information about your gender or any type of information that is personal is not recommended to add it in the CV, okay? Also, the references that we recommend to put, it will change. So if you apply for a job in Europe, try to use references from European experts rather than from other countries, no? So yeah, I will advise you to have different templates of the CV. Always try to update them. And obviously, you don't need to start from scratch when you apply for a job, but you need to always adapt it, okay? So just to finalize, I recommend you to have a look at our platform, Blue Jobs, if you haven't yet. There are, right now, I just copied this morning some opportunities for aquaculture. Some of them are remote, some of them are in different countries. Maybe you can apply because maybe the first one is in United States. But it's good that you read the job description, you identify the skills that are being requested in the sector, and to analyze, what are the opportunities, what are the competencies that are being requested. And then I also recommend you to register at Blue Jobs and our platform, because sometimes we do not publish the jobs, but the client wants us to find experts in different countries. So sometimes I need an expert of aquaculture or for seafood in Nigeria or in Tunisia, in Morocco. So if you register your CV in our platform, we will be able to find you quickly. So I think that's all from my side. Thank you so much. And I don't know if you have any questions, but in any case, this is my email address, so you can reach us at Blue Jobs, and we will try to support you. Thank you so much.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much, Celia, for that
Thank you.
insightful session. Yeah, it's very impactful. And I must say, you highlighted some very important points, around skills, employability, and then the opportunities in the blue economy. Thanks for sharing more about blue jobs. That's great. And I believe our audience will definitely maximize the opportunity that blue jobs offer. Yeah, that's a great one. So our audience, I believe we've received so much today. And if there are questions, you can just make use of the chat box, maybe on YouTube or on Facebook. So we can see that at our hand here, so that Celia can attend to them. But while we wait for questions from our audience, I have some few questions at my end here, which I believe will also be of great benefit to our audience, especially our community at Fishleadhub. So, the first one on my list here is I would like to ask, in Africa is common, there are some how should I put it now? There are some stories or some understanding around fisheries, aquaculture, and the blue economy generally. So we see students not really interested in pursuing some of these courses by choice. So most of the time, students are pleased to study some of these courses, and it's more or less like a last resort for students in our tertiary institutions. And so due to this, sometimes there are no motivations, and then no clear direction, and that's one of the gaps that Fishleadhub is trying to bridge. So I would like to ask, I know some of your presentation has highlighted some of these in on a general note. So how can a student begins to identify clear career pathway for themselves, in blue economy generally? Our institutions, they are more of theories. We are being exposed to several things in blue economy. So, but as an individual, how can we begin to identify clear, career pathway for oneself in blue economy? Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I think this is a gap also for students, a barrier for students in many European countries as well, not only in Africa. And also, I think the first advice will be for students while they are at the university or for training centers to make the most of their experience. So while they are studying, they need to try to get contacts from professors, from industry leaders, from to do internships, to know the market, to know organizations that they will probably employ in the future. No, so sometimes when we study, we are just focusing on study and get the right scores, and that's it. No, but we need to start networking at the study phase. Okay, once you finalize your studies, then I would recommend to be in contact with the industry while you are looking for a job. What that I mean? That if there is an event in blue economy organized at your city, you need to attend. You need to try to participate in all the conferences, because this is the way that the organization will start to know you better. No. And then there is the online networking, no? So try to use LinkedIn, have a really good profile on LinkedIn, contact key stakeholders, and I think that's the way to go closer to the market, not to the job market. Yeah, but starting from the studies, from the university or from the training that you do, you need to start networking at that phase, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's thanks for that brilliant answer. In fact, it was still around networking in different platforms, in
Yeah.
conferences, on online, on LinkedIn, and several other. Yeah, I can testify to that. Some of my mentors from distances today, I met them on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, and the journey has been so impactful. Even though I've not met quite a number of them in person, but they have been impactful, making themselves available to share experience, to answer questions and concerns. Yeah, thank you so
Mhm.
much. Yeah, I could
No
see
worry. And
from
sorry,
this. Okay.
just one comment on this, because you mentioned something very interesting, that maybe you haven't met these people, but they are supporting you.
Yeah.
So another thing that is very important is to do this mentorship activities. No, so right now there are a lot of mentorship opportunities that a recent graduate can apply and come and will have advice from a senior professional working on the industry. So if you have any questions, if you have any doubts about the career pathways, I would recommend you to do a mentorship program or just to get a mentor. And I'm sure that people, professionals, are really willing to help. And this is a really great way to see an example of the real life, no?
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for that emphasis. So I could see someone from the chat box asking, thank you so much. My question, is there a difference between the scientific publications and research projects? These two is under the academic CV as presented. So,
Yeah, I will say you will have your research publications. These are the ones that they are in research magazines, books, the articles, not research articles. But maybe you are also contributing to other type of publications that they are not only for scientific, but they are also for a wider public, or they have a target of policymakers, of different stakeholders. So you do publications for the industry. So they are still very relevant, even if they are not published in a scientific as a scientific paper, but they are really relevant to create this knowledge for the industry. So that's what I meant with different publications, no?
okay. Yeah, all right. That's fantastic. I believe the person asking the question quite understand that. Yeah, so while still waiting for more questions from the chat box, I will also like to ask, because one of the things that is central to us at Fishleadhub is to also, seek, see a way to bring about informed policies that enhance the youths, young people generally in fisheries, aquaculture, and the wider blue economy. And over time, there have been trainings here and there, and most of the time, some of these trainings does not really make so much impact. So I would like to know, how can training programs better align with the industry needs, rather than yeah, maybe the academic theory and all of that. So how can our trainees better align with the industrial need?
Yeah, this is a really interesting point, because there is this problem. It happens in most of the blue economy sectors, that the training curricula is not being adapted to the new trends of the markets, the new technologies. So there are different ways to tackle this. One is from the policymaker side. So policymakers, they basically need to understand what are the skills that they are being requested. Training centers need to work more in collaboration with the industry, to understand what the industry needs. It's not an easy task, but from the job seeker, from the professional side, what I will advise is to look twice to decide which training do you do. So when you select a training course, look at the specific especially the digital skills, no, the transversal skills, because maybe, I mean, the fundamentals of research are the same from 20 years ago, but the technologies are not the same. The way, the approach for training is not the same. So I will advise you to really look for trainings that have been renewed, and offer this connection with the industry through traineeships or through internships, or also there are a lot of trainings that they do in collaboration with industry. So people working, professionals working in industry will give you some sessions at the training, which this is great because you will see examples of the real work. No?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. We are still expecting more questions from the chat box. If you have any questions or concerns, please just drop them in the comment section and we can see them here. So I think I have two more questions on my end here.
Okay.
So do jobs from right now for about 2 months. Yeah. So I would like to ask that what are the practical steps that young people, like our community who are, from Africa, can take to assess some of these global opportunities, how to position themselves very well or competitively for some of these opportunities on globally.
Okay. So for global opportunities, I guess you mean, yeah, so from African professionals also to be able to work at different regions, no? Like
Yeah.
in Europe or United States. This is obviously, so sometimes so as we mentioned, there are two pathways. If you go for the academic pathway, it's easier in terms of the visa, for to get a visa, no, because this is the main problem. So basically, if you do a master or if you get a scholarship to get a master or a PhD, you will already get that visa easily. No, if you want to work in the private industry, you will need to try to find international companies that can support you with the visa. Okay, because if you are going to apply to a small company in Greece for aquaculture, it's very difficult that they can help you to have the allowance to work in Europe, no. But as I was mentioning in the CV, there are a lot of opportunities for international organizations like the FAO, and other international institutions that they are actually looking for experts, local experts in African countries, no? So I will advise to also look at this type of contracts, which are sometimes more freelancer contracts, but so yeah, coming from international organizations, okay? And then my other advice, it will be, as I said, to adapt to the culture of that country, no? So to analyze the skills that they are requested, if for sure you need to have a statistical analysis skills, so work on that, find a training course to do that, no, and be up to date with the skills, but also with the CV in terms of structure, in terms of yeah, the culture of the country that you are going to apply.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So maybe as we round up, I guess there are no more questions from the audience. So let me just bring up my last question, which is going to be like the advice you will have for these young people. Maybe from your own experience, what are the common mistakes young people need to avoid while building a career in blue economy? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I guess as I said, marine science, the blue economy are worldwide sectors. They are the ocean don't have barriers, no. So the I will say the mistake is to stay in your comfort area, try to look only for jobs in your region, and do not want to look more for other regions, for other type of situations that are not in your comfort area, no. So just in my case, when I studied marine science, it was really difficult to find a job here in Spain. So what I decided is to ask for a scholarship to study in the UK, to have a master really specific for one sector that I thought that it would be good to find a job. Then I study there, then I come back to my country. So all of this international experience really help you first to decide what career pathway you like most, and secondly, it will help you to find a job. No, so be open to stay out of your comfort zone, I will say.
Oh, all right, great. That's great one. Thank you so much. And it's been a great time with you. And I must
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you for sharing your time, your knowledge and insights with us today. And on behalf of Fishleadhub, I want to say thank you for all you have done, the impactful knowledge you have shared with us. I believe it will go a long way in our career journey as young people, and especially also for sharing, more about blue jobs. I believe we explore the more. Yeah. Thank you so much, Celia, and to everyone who joined us. I want to say thank you for being part of this session. At Fish Lead Up, our goals, our vision remain the same. We remain committed to building clarity, capacity, and opportunities for young people in fisheries, aquaculture, and the wider blue economy. So next month is going to be another time. Even before then, if you are yet to follow us on different platforms like our LinkedIn, Facebook, I encourage you to please do that. And yeah, so see you another time. Celia, once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
I
so much.
appreciate. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.